Hi guys, welcome back. In this video, I am going to show you how to root a machine from Hackthebox named as Devel. Let me just quickly grab the machine for your reference. So this is the machine, Devel. The target IP address is 10.10.10.5. I have already connected my VPN. I've already started this machine. All right. The agenda behind recording this write-up is to help people who are trying to prepare for OSCP certification to get them with the required skills to crack the certification in their first attempt. And instead of directly solving a machine right away, I would try to build up a methodology in these videos. Starting with, I have a mind map with me. I'll bring it in. So this is a high level overview of what you can expect out of this box. We'll start with a port scan. We'll find port 80 and 21 open. We'll get an initial foothold by chaining two different issues. We'll upload something via port 21. We'll execute same thing via port 80. And then we'll move towards by combining this thing. Once we get the initial foothold, we'll get a low user privilege foothold, low privilege user shell. Then we'll perform some privilege escalation techniques. So there are multiple ways of escalating privileges to solve this machine. We are going to take a look into all the ways that are possible in this scenario. Simultaneously, I would like to show you some enumeration checklist or techniques. So what I have started doing is I've started building this mind map, and as soon as we progress throughout this playlist, we'll try to populate this mind map right in front of you, and I'll try to give you some initial foothold methods, some patterns that you can look for while you are approaching a machine. This is going to give you a mindset of what things you need to look for and what to do if you find A, how to chain it with B. To save our time, what I have done is I have already performed the nmap port scan. I'll quickly show it to you. If I just, so I'm already inside my directory Devel. I've already created a directory, and in here I have a folder named as nmap in which I have my port scans saved. So I'll just do cat nmap scan1.nmap. So if you can see, this is the command that I ran, nmap space hyphen p hyphen hyphen n hyphen vvv hyphen small o capital A nmap scan1 10 to 10 5. All right. This is the target IP address. This is the name of the tool, the utility that I'm running, nmap, followed by hyphen p hyphen. This is to mention that I want to run a full port scan. I want to scan all the ports that exist out there. I don't want to skip anything. And hyphen n is to do not resolve for DNS, and hyphen vvv is for triple verbosity. What happens is when I'm going to run it with triple verbosity, I do not need to wait for the nmap to complete the scan, and I can just start seeing the output as it goes on, and as it finds if a port is open. I can see a prompt right there on the terminal. All right. Hyphen small o is for saving the output, and capital A is for the output format. So hyphen A represents all format, and I want to save the output in all the possible formats. So if you can see, if I just do ls cdnmap ls, you can see scan1 has been saved in three formats: nmap, xml, and gnmap. The output is in xml format, normal nmap output, and grabbable nmap output. So I hope the meaning of this command is clear. After running this full port scan, I can see that there are only two ports which are open. If we go back to our mind map here, we can see that we have successfully completed the port scan, and we have figured out two ports are open. So after this, I'm going to run another port scan. And now what I did was, this is the command that I used. What is happening here is I'm only scanning for two ports, port 21 and 80, and I want to run OS detection scan, that is hyphen capital O. I'm saving the output in all formats. Inside the nmap directory, I want to say create a file named as scan1. This is the target IP address. And what this is doing is this is going to run all the scripts which falls under the VULN category. What I'm doing here is I'm using nmap as a vulnerability scanner. Okay. And hyphen smallest capital C is for running default scripts, and capital V is for running version detection scan. So what I'm doing here is I want to identify the version of the services which are running on these two ports 21 and 80. Against these two ports, I want to run all the default scripts. I want to run all the vulnerable category scripts. I want to perform an OS detection, and I want to save the output. All right. If you see the output, you can see that the version of the target service is Microsoft FTPD. So this is a very big hint that the target operating system that we are up against is a Windows-based box. Okay. For port 80, we can find Microsoft IIS HTTPD 7.5. The HTTP server header is Microsoft IIS 7.5. So the target web server that is running on port 80 is Microsoft IIS 7.5. Again, this is another hint that the target server is Windows-based operating system. And apart from this, we can see some OS detections here as well, running, just guessing, Microsoft Windows 8 or 7 or 2008 server, Vista 8.1 or Microsoft Windows Phone, and some aggressive guesses here, something similar to this. Similarly, we can also identify what kind of operating system we are up against with the help of IIS version as well. So if I just open up my browser and I search for Microsoft IIS 7.5, and if I just open up the first link here, I can see the releases, and I can see that 7.5 on Windows 7, 7.5 on Windows Server 2008 R2. So these were the operating systems where it was prevalent, where this used to be there by default. Okay. All right. This is also another way of identifying or taking a reasonable guess about the target operating system that you are up against. All right, let's get back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up first port 21, and I'll start with the enumeration. If I just see this thing right away, I cannot find anything useful here other than the services or the versions or some basic information. Apart from this, I cannot find anything critical or groundbreaking or anything that is going to help me getting a foothold, any known vulnerability. Okay, so nothing as such is presented here. So that simply means that now this machine warrants me to go about doing the manual enumeration. So I'll start with the port 21. Okay, and I'll go back to my mind map, to my enumeration mind map. And if you see this port 21 FTP, the first step for the enumeration that I have mentioned is that look for FTP service version and try to find if there is any known exploit around this. If I take a look into the FTP version, I cannot see any specific version of this service. I just know that it's Microsoft FTPD. I do not know exactly what exact version it is. If I just try to do Google search, Microsoft FTPD, let's see what I can find. Let's say this is something. Let's check this out. I can search for Microsoft FTPD exploit, vulnerability, security issue. Okay, something around that. All right. So what does it say? It says that yes, there is a Metasploit module. It's a Rapid 7 link. Okay, there's a Metasploit exploit that is there. This module exploits a stack buffer overflow, IIS, FTP service. Here as well, there is no mention of any specific version of the target service. Okay, this may work out for us or this may not work out for us. There is no guarantee to it. Okay, but I can see that this issue was disclosed in the year 2009, and this box was released way too after this issue disclosure. I don't think that this vulnerability would be present in this box, but this is worth a try. Okay, let's try to fire this exploit. At this point, we do not have any further information to assure us that if the target service is vulnerable to this or not. We do not have any specific versions mentioned in our port scan or mentioned in this specific exploit. Okay. So the only reasonable thing that we can do at this point is try to run this exploit using Metasploit. In case you are preparing for OSCP and you are appearing for OSCP, Metasploit exploit usage is not an option for you. It is only allowed for one-time use. I'll try to refrain myself from using Metasploit until and unless it is absolutely necessary. I'll try to cover the Metasploit exploitation at the end of the videos. I'll try to show you the manual steps initially, and then Metasploit can be covered at the end. I go back here, I'll just search for exploit. It's the same link. I do have a Python exploit 094053 IIS FTPD. So this is the same exploit. Okay, it's just that this is the Metasploit module and this is a simple Python script. All right, this is something that we can look into. All right, it does says .rb user shared exploit DB platforms. All right, so this is a good repo. We will be coming back to this repo at a later point as well. Okay, for the timing, I'll just keep this thing in my arsenal. Here, we while trying to find a known exploit for the known FTP version, we may have some success or we may not have some success. Okay, so we'll keep this thing at standby for now. Let's say you are not able to find any exploit around the version of the service that is running here. What to do next? The next most common thing that needs to be done now is you need to look for anonymous FTP access. Okay, let's see how we can do that. The second step, anonymous login. You have to check if it is allowed or not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do FTP and target IP address. In the name, let's say I mentioned Rishabh, press enter, some password, enter, user cannot log in, let's do exit. All right. So when checking for anonymous login access, you have to be very particular with the username. You can only type anonymous as the username. Any random username is not going to work for anonymous login access. Okay. So if I just go about doing the same thing using anonymous, ANONY, anonymous, and some random password 123456, user logged in, and indeed I have successfully logged in. At this point, I have concluded that anonymous FTP access is allowed. Okay. So in case anonymous FTP access is allowed, then we can follow down this route and we can go about following this route. But before that, let's try to see what these numbers are. These are your FTP response codes, just like your HTTP response codes. We do have FTP response codes, list of FTP server return codes. You can see, and you can see here FTP response status codes in IS 7.0 and later. So this is totally relevant to us, definitely. So you can see similar, you can draw parallels between the HTTP status code or response codes. Similarly, we have this 100 series, 200 series, 300 series, 400 series, 500 series, 600 series. These are some of the most common codes that are most widely used, widely seen out there in the wild. Okay, and you can see there's a lot of documentation around this. This can act as a very good food for thought. So if I just go about searching for 220, it says service ready for new user. So when you make an FTP connection, it says connected. It sends you back 220. So it says the service is telling you that it is ready for a new connection. It is ready to accept a connection. You just have to provide an authentication. Okay. Let's similarly, you can explore what does 331 means and what does 530 means. What does 221 means? Okay. What does 229 means? So these are different response codes which can be explored at this point. Okay. So you can see when I did an exit, it sent me 221 goodbye. So you can see 221 goodbye. Service closing control connection logged out if appropriate. Okay. So we can see on logging out, we got a 221 response, so on and so forth. So I believe this documentation is pretty much enough for you to explore further anything that is ahead. Okay. Let's get back to our enumeration checklist. This is not an exhaustive enumeration checklist. As soon as we progress in this playlist of solving boxes, I will be adding these enumeration steps right in front of you with each box. Okay. So by the end of this playlist, you will get a full enumeration checklist or enumeration mind map that you can take for your OSCP exam. Okay. All right. So once you get anonymous login, once you log in inside an FTP share, the next step that you have to do is you have to check for privileges. Okay. What kind of privileges? You have to check if you are only having read privileges or do you also have write privileges. Okay. The question is, why do you want to check for these privileges? And the reason is right in front of it. So in case you have read privileges, you do not have write privileges, you cannot write anything. In case you only have read privileges, what you have to do is you should have this mindset. So I'm trying to give you this methodology that you can utilize for approaching any sort of box. If you only have a read privilege to an FTP share, the only way for you to go about enumerating that share is trying to find what kind of files are present there, what kind of files or directories are present there, and trying to look for any juicy information or sensitive information or interesting information there. Maybe you can find some backup file, maybe you can find some configuration file that contains some username and password, maybe you can find some file which contains API keys, or etc etc. You understand what kind of sensitive information I'm talking about. Anything that is going to help us move ahead to solve this box. Okay. So in case you only have read access, this is the route that you follow. In case you have write access, so let's first of all check our privileges. How can we check our privileges? We do have read privileges. We can see that I have these files that are visible to me, and this is a test file that I uploaded just before recording this video. Okay, you can see this is the date. What I'm going to do is I'm going to download something. Let's say welcome.png. So let's do get welcome.png. Get server connection closed, or maybe it timed out. So a lot of inactivity is going to time out my session. The logged in ls and get welcome.png. If I just to get, and where am I? Warning, it's a warning, it's not an error. Okay. And transfer connecting, data connection already open, entering extended passive mode, reading from network interrupted, system call 0%, the specified network name is no longer available. Warning, file may not have transferred correctly. All right, we'll see. We'll take a look. I'm inside the Devel directory. Let's see. I do have a file over here, and it is not empty actually. So if I can just, okay, sudo apt search Nautilus. I'll just quickly get the Nautilus apt. So let's allow this thing to run behind the scenes. I don't want to waste your time. So I'll go to documents, HTV, and Devel. This is the place. Let's try to open up a PNG file here. Do I have anything? No. Fatal error. Reading PNG file corrupted by ASCII conversion. All right. So that simply means that there was an issue with the conversion. Actually, I need to change the mode here. Okay. This file has been corrupted, and if you can see the output over here, you can see the issue is with the ASCII mode, that by default it is set to ASCII mode, and I need to change the mode. If you just want to know a little bit more about this, what you can do is you can just search for Microsoft FTP binary mode, and FTP binary, yeah, sets the file transfer type to binary. FTP command supports both. So yeah, FTP, it supports ASCII and binary modes. We generally use ASCII when we are trying to transfer some text based data, and we generally go for binary mode when we are trying to transfer some sort of binary data which is not text data, which cannot be easily rendered with a text pad, notepad. Okay, it tells me that this is the syntax: binary, FTP binary. So let's just type binary over here. So in case you want to know more commands, you can just type help here. And once you type help here, you can see all the possible commands which are supported by this FTP shell. Okay. And you can also find this binary over here. So I'll just do binary, and remote server has, okay, so it has timed out actually due to inactivity. So I'll just exit, connect again, ANONY anonymous. And if I just type help, these are the commands. I type binary. So you can see that it's a success, 200 response code. And now if I try to do get, if I just do ls welcome.png, let me just remove this file and let's download this file again. Get welcome.png, press enter, opening binary mode connection, and we can actually see the progress. We can see that transfer has been completed successfully. There's no issues. Okay, let's try to see if the file is present here. Yes, it has been downloaded indeed. And if I just double click on it, I can see that it is successfully rendered, and this is the image. All right, so I can download something from the FTP server. I can read the files. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to check if I have write privileges or not. Okay, to check this thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file. Okay, I can do this here as well, but because later on I want to upload something, so I just want to be sure that I have uploading privileges. So what I'm going to do is I'll just create a file here, touch test1.txt, Let's do echo. Rishabh is testing FTP upload feature, and I'll just redirect it to test1.txt. So I have created this file with these text content, and what I'm going to do is I'll upload this file. I'll put this file test1.txt, 100% completed. If I do ls, I can see test1.txt has been successfully uploaded. What does this mean? This means that I do have write privileges on the target server. Okay, I do have write privileges. So I do have read privileges. I do have write privileges. Read privileges requires me to go about searching into further files and folders inside the FTP share, looking for some juicy information. If I have write privileges, what I have to do is that I have the privileges to upload something on the target server via the FTP protocol. I have the capability to upload something somewhere on the target server. Okay. What if I am able to upload a malicious file? Uploading a malicious file in itself is not enough. Okay. Uploading in itself is not enough. I need to figure out a way to execute it. So whenever you find this thing that you have write privileges, the next step that you have to do is you have to figure out a way to execute something. You should be vigilant around this thing. And this brings us to the initial foothold pattern. Okay. This kind of pattern can be seen in upload functions as well. Whenever you find some sort of an upload function anywhere, okay, either by using FTP or by SMB or by put HTTP method or etc., you can find some sort of web application that allows you upload functionality. Okay, so whenever you have an upload function, what you have to ask is that if you have the capabilities to upload something somewhere, if that is true, the next question that you have to ask is, can you execute it from somewhere or somehow? You have to figure out this way. If these two things are true, you would be able to get a shell. Okay, if you can upload something and if you can execute it, if you can chain these two things, you can get an initial foothold. Okay, this is one of the pattern, and this one pattern is what we are going to take a look into this machine. Okay, all right. So far into this box, we understand that we do have upload capabilities. Now we are looking for some sort of execution capabilities. But so far, we do not have any such information. From my common sense, I can see that this image is default IIS server image. Okay, when you set up a fresh IIS server, this is a default background image, and there's a standard IIS start.html file. All right. Seems like this FTP share has something to do with the IIS web server. There is some link. Maybe the home directory of the FTP server and the web server is same. Maybe. We need to confirm this hypothesis. Okay. So what I'm going to do is another port that was open was port 80. So I'll go to browser. I'll visit HTTP and I can find the same image which was visible here. All right. Is it the same image if I just do welcome.png? Yes, it is the same. Can I do the view page source and can I see what is present here? The source is welcome.png. All right. So it is taking some image from the current working directory. All right. And if I go back to my terminal in FTP, is it iis.htm? Can I visit this thing? Let's see. iis.htm. Yes, there's no error. There's nothing wrong that is happening here. Can I visit this directory? There's another directory over here. I'll try to see ASP.NET Client. Yes, indeed, I can access this directory. It says 403 forbidden. That's a different issue, but this directory actually exists here. Okay, what does this means? This means that so far we have been able to identify that the directory from where web server is running is same as the directory from where our FTP server is running. Okay, so both of these servers are having the same home directory. They're running from the same directory. And if I try to check test1.txt, is it present here? Let's see. Test1.txt. Yes, it is indeed. Okay, so this simply proves our hypothesis that yes, the home directories are same. All right. In case you are not able to identify this thing out of experience, what you can do is you can follow the directory brute forcing path. Once you start enumerating the port number 80 HTTP, you will start following the port 80 enumeration guide, and you will run a directory brute force on port 80. And that way you would be able to come across these directories and these file listings there. Okay, that way you would be able to reach to the same conclusion. All right, what did we concluded just now? That we have the same directory, and that simply means that initial foothold pattern is getting successful here. We can upload something through FTP and we can get it executed from the web server. Okay, so if I can upload something here at this place, if I can put something here, upload something here, and if I can execute it via this place. Okay, and this is an IIS server, and the default backend programming language is ASP. Okay, so depending upon the IIS version, the supported language is going to be ASP or ASPX. So what happens if I upload a malicious file or a reverse shell via the FTP of the format ASP or ASPX from here, and call it call that endpoint from this point from the web server? This ASPX is going to be executed by the web server. Once it gets executed by the web server, I'll get a reverse shell, okay, on my Kali machine. Okay, so I hope this attack methodology is clear to you. Coming up ahead, we'll take a look into how to do this practically. All right, so far we have concluded that the root directory of the web server and the FTP servers are same. Now, if we follow our mind map, we know that we are looking for a way to execute the file that we can upload. If we can upload something, we need to figure out a way to execute it. So the analogy that we are building here is that if I upload a malicious file via the FTP server and get it executed via the web server, then that way I would be able to execute my code on the target server. The question that arises here is that what can be executed by the target web server? The target web server is, if I just quickly do a cat scan2.nmap, the operating system is Windows based and the server is Microsoft IIS. And if you do not know this thing already, I'll tell you this thing right away, that IIS supports ASP and ASPX as the backend programming languages. Just like Apache supports PHP as a backend programming language. Okay, so it's a web server. Microsoft IIS is a web server that understands and executes ASPX. What if I create a reverse shell in ASPX, upload it via FTP, and get it executed via the web server? Let's go down this route and let's try to create a reverse shell using MSF Venom. I'll start with MSF Venom -LP. I'm listing the payloads and I want to grab for Windows based payloads and I want to grab for reverse and TCP. I can see some relevant payloads are in front of me. I can use this payload, Windows x64 shell reverse TCP. There is something that you have to keep in mind while going with the x64 architecture payloads, that if the target operating system or the target server is not 64-bit, if it is not of 64-bit architecture, then it would not be able to execute our reverse shell or our payload. Okay, so in that case, we would go back and run or create an x86 payload. Generally, an x86 based payload or a 32-bit based payload is a safer option or a safer choice whenever we are targeting an operating system blindly, because a 32-bit payload is going to be functional on a 32-bit operating system as well as on a 64-bit operating system. But a 64-bit payload is not going to be operational on a 32-bit machine. Okay, so let's quickly show this thing with a quick demo. MSF Venom -P. I'll select this payload and I would like to show you options of this payload as well. So I can use this -list -options flag to show the options relevant to this payload. And I can see that the required fields are lhost and lport. By default, the lport is set to 444. If I want to change, I can change it. If I'm not going to mention anything, it is going to take 444 as the default payload lport number. But I do have to mention lhost as it is empty. So let's do this thing. MSF Venom lhost is equals to my Kali IP address 10.10.16.6 and lport. Let's make our lport as 1234 and let's set the format as ASPX and let's save the output as shell 64.aspx. Let's wait for MSF Venom to generate the payload. It has been generated. Let's see. Yes, indeed. Let's do FTP 10.10.10.5. Let's do anonymous login. Let's change the mode to binary and let's upload. So if you see, our payload has been successfully uploaded. Let's do exit nc-nvlp 1234. So I'm starting a listener to listen for incoming connection on port number 1234. Let's run it. 10.10.10.5 and I'll mention this payload. So if you see that I'm not getting any error here, that means that this endpoint is valid, but I'm not getting any callback here. This hints me that maybe my target architecture is different. I'm not targeting an x64 based architecture. I'll create another payload then. Let's create another payload for 32-bit. I'll list the payloads once again. The payloads that you can see here, which does not mention x64, that means that these payloads are x86 x86 based payloads. These are 32-bit payloads. All right. So I'm looking for Windows reverse TCP. All right. Windows, where is it? Windows shell reverse TCP. This is a staged payload. I don't want to go with that. I will go with a stageless payload. So let's build up our MSF Venom and let's set our new payload as this. Let's remove our old payload and let's build our new payload as 32-bit. Press enter and you can see an x86 based payload has been generated. Let's log into the target share. Let's upload our file. Let's exit. Let's look for a listener. I have started a listener. Let's try to call this payload 32. Press enter and I can see that a reversal has been received. So this executed well and I have received a reversal from the target endpoint. Okay, connect to this from this. All right, looks nice. From this point, my local enumeration starts happening. Who am I? I am not an anti-authority system or administrative user. I need to escalate my privileges, but I believe at this point I would be able to get user flag at least if I just do dir. So I'm not inside the web server's root directory because these files were not present there. So if I just do cd dot 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 dir, if I just go to cd users dir cd babis, okay, so I cannot access the babis user. All right, can I do cd public? Yes, I can do that. dir, if I go to, I don't want to go anywhere now, in fact. So the user flag is not accessible for now. There's no point in going into this directory, but still I'll give it a try. Access is denied. So I do not have the privileges to access the user flag as well. All right, so I'll try to perform local system enumeration. I just want to know what is the host name, how many interfaces do I have? I only have one interface. If there would have been multiple interfaces here, that would have given me a potential to pivot to another network. Okay, but that is not the case here. And some very basic information around the target operating system. Okay, although there are a lot of different privilege escalation techniques that exist out there, but I'll cover all of those techniques in a dedicated video around privilege escalation for Windows. For now, what do we have here? We know that this is the target operating system. It is Windows 7 Enterprise. So this is quite outdated and old. So this is nothing, this is not a new operating system. And this is the OS version. Okay. And I can see the hotfixes as an A. Hotfixes are nothing but the patches that are released by Windows to mitigate some sort of security risk time to time. Generally, if it would have been patched, you would be able to see some KB followed by some number, KB 1234, KB something something, KB something something. So that means that all of those patches have been installed. Okay, but I can see that there are no patches which has been installed on this operating system, and it is an x86 based operating system. All right, this is Windows 7. This simply suggests me or gives me a hint that because this is an older version of operating system which is not patched, which does not contain any patch, never been patched. So maybe it is vulnerable to some sort of a kernel exploit. So in privilege escalation, I do have these extensive Windows and Linux privilege escalation mind maps, but I'll refrain from using these, and instead I'll start building Windows privilege escalation patterns along with this playlist. If you do system info, and you can see that there are no hot fixes, that means that the target operating system is missing security patches. That means that there's a potential of kernel exploits. Okay, these sort of patterns is something that you have to look for. Ideally, it is never advised to fire a kernel exploit right away. Okay, this should be your a tool, or this should be a method for your last resort. Why so? The reason being, kernel exploits, if they do not work properly, they are going to crash the target system. They're going to crash the target operating system. Okay, they may instabilize the target machine. Okay, so you have to be very cautious with kernel exploits. All right, how can I go about searching for relevant exploit? Let's do a quick Google search. It is Windows 7, and it is enterprise build is 7600, and I'll search for exploit, and I can see there's a first exploit which is shown by Google. It says local privilege escalation MS11046. All right, let's try to take a look. It's a quite old exploit. The operating system is also old. It mentions that it is for target 32-bit operating systems. All right, but here I can see that 64-bit operating systems are also vulnerable. Here are list of the vulnerable softwares, and I cannot find exact match of my distribution, because I can see Windows 7 Enterprise Service Pack 1 x86. This is matching, but mine is 61760, but this is 7601. If you see, okay, all right, but these are very close. I can see 61707 home basic x86. So there's a very high potential that my operating system, my target machine, is vulnerable to this exploit, this privilege escalation exploit. So now the question that arises is how to run this exploit, right? And 99% of the times you will see that the exploit author would have shared a technique to run the exploit or the usage of the exploit. So I can see that it's a C exploit. The code is written in C, and it has mentioned that how you can compile it. If you are having Kali Linux 64-bit machine, you can compile it using mingw's GCC. It's a C compiler, okay, and you can use this i686 version of this. So I can actually compile C code into binaries, Windows binaries, which are compatible on 32-bit operating systems. This is how I can compile it. I can also look for pre-compiled exploits, but it is never advisable to use any exploit or any exe that is provided to you by someone else on the GitHub, because you do not know what is there inside that exe. Okay, never ever use pre-compiled exes in your target environment, in your actual engagements. It is okay to use pre-compiled binaries in CTFs in lab environments, but when you are conducting an actual penetration test, never use untrusted binaries. Never run them. Okay, let me quickly check if I have this GCC already present or not. Okay, copy, paste. Yes, it is present. All right. So let me just quickly copy this exploit. I can download it as well. Let's go for raw, and I'll just wget it. I'll create a directory here, cd or mkdir exploit cd exploit wget. So I can see the exploit has been downloaded. Okay, and I'll just copy the compilation command. I don't want to write it from scratch. I'll just copy this from here, paste it here, and the name of my exploit is not this. So what I'm going to do is I'll just quickly rename this, and I'll just append a .c extension here. The reason being, my compilation is going to fail if I do not have an extension. Okay, all right, and I want to save the output as exploit.exe, and I'll keep everything as it is. Let's press enter, and this command succeeded without any error. So that means the compilation was successful. I can see an exploit here. It's P32 executable. Nice. All right. Intel 00386. All right. So I'll upload this file. How can I upload it? I can just utilize FTP 10 10 10 5 anonymous, set the mode to binary for sending the binary files. Let's upload exploit.exe. Let's check if it has successfully been uploaded. Yes, it is. So let's now look for this binary and run it. I can see inet pub folder. It's a standard directory. inet public for web servers. I can see folders such as www.root. Seems like my web server's root directory. And I can see my exploit is present here. Just in case if you are curious to explore the other folders, please feel free to explore the contents of these folders. I'll just give you a spoiler. FTP root directory is not this directory. FTP root directory is actually this directory. Okay, all right. So I can see my exploit.exe is present here. Before running exploit.exe, I want to do who am I, and now I want to run exploit.exe. So this exploit is going to spawn a root shell. Let's press enter, and now I do who am I. I can see I'm anti-authority system. So from here to here, I have successfully escalated my privileges. Okay, using this privilege escalation exploit, and now I would be able to read the flags cd users and cd babis, cd desktop. Previously I was not able to go inside babis directory, but now I can, and inside here I can see the user.txt. I can read the flag from here, and if I just go to my administrator directory, I can read the root flag as well. All right, we have successfully rooted this machine without the help of Metasploit. Okay, these things would have been way too easy if you would have used Metasploit instead. Getting a reverse shell, getting a Metapreter shell, and doing privilege escalation would have been easier. But I believe this was also easy only. All right, so I just hope that you got to learn something new from this video. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and in the next part of this video, I'll cover how to root this machine using Metasploit. And in that video, we are going to talk about going beyond root as well. Okay. All right. That's all. Thanks a lot for joining in. Take care. Bye bye.